Hi, everyone. I'm Tracy. I'm on our product marketing team. So when it comes to growing your mobile game, user acquisition is a pretty common tactic of how to acquire users and grow your revenue. But there tend to be some common misconceptions surrounding it. So today we're going to take a look at 3 of those misconceptions and break down what you really need to know. Our first myth is that paid traffic is less valuable than organic traffic, meaning buying those users to grow your game is not as valuable as the ones you acquire organically. But how do you acquire organic sources of installs? So there's things like store featuring, the Apple Store, the Google Play Store featuring your app, making the most of your App Store listing, making sure your keywords are spot on, the images you choose to promote your game, your description are all reflective of what your app is, as well as search, and then things such as PR, external reviews, and word of mouth is a very popular way to attract users as well. But the App Store is a crowded place. With over 2 million apps on the Google Play Store, almost 2 million on the Apple Store, and the average age of apps on the top 10 list of highest grossing apps is there for 5 years. So how do you break through the clutter of this noise with organic sources of traffic that you can't necessarily control? You can't control when your game is going to go viral. You can't control that the app stores are going to promote you. So that's where paid acquisition can come into play. Paid sources of installs can really be broken down into 2 major buckets, awareness and performance. Awareness is focused on getting the noise out there, getting your message across, working with influencers such as social and blogs. You're not laser focused on the actual action that you want the user to do. Of course, you want them to actually install your app, but it's more about getting that message across. Whereas performance is more focused on specifically an action that the user will take. Only paying when someone clicks on your ad, only paying when they take a specific action, as well as only paying when they actually install the app. So here are some examples of awareness tactics in the wild. So Supercell, for the launch of their game Brawl Stars, they partnered with YouTube influencers and gamers of past Supercell titles, and they held a live stream event where people could tune in and watch these YouTube influencers playing the game and then pre-register their interest before the app even launched. Bejeweled, another type of game, their whole message was that playing Bejeweled takes you to your shiny place. It's something that you can do to escape from reality. So they partnered with different influencers and utilized Instagram to have the influencers post themselves in their shiny place with this hashtag. And actually, just the other night, I was trying to fall asleep, beat my jet lag, and I was listening to a podcast, and I heard an ad for an app. I wasn't going to mention this because it's someone from The Bachelor who was the podcast. But it just goes to show that depending on your game and the audience, working with various influencers and tapping into their channels can really expand your reach and broaden what you do. Performance tactics. So these are some popular ad units that are commonly used to acquire users. Most mobile video is a common format. Here are some screenshots from Unity's own ad platform, as well as others, such as in a video that was playing on Instagram stories. That third example there is a playable ad, which is a really popular new format that, depending on the genre of your app, can be really beneficial because users actually play a snippet of the game before they're installing. So depending on the user, when they actually install from Playable, they're probably high quality because they know what they want. And then an end card here on the end, this commonly follows these formats. It just gives users a place to actually tap to make the install. And sometimes those can have interactivity as well. So myth number 1, busted. It really is not that paid is less than organic or organic is less than paid. It's that both of these tactics can work in conjunction with each other, because it can be difficult to access reliable sources of organic traffic. And to run any successful business, you need predictable and controllable revenue. And that's where paid acquisition allows you to have a measurable way to understand how you're driving users to your game. And as your app climbs the ranks, then more people will notice it organically. There's actually something called the K factor, which is a term that initiated from the medical industry. When one person gets infected with the disease, another one does. That happens in your game. With one install, it brings another. And that can be through paid or organic. So really, it's that paid and organic traffic go hand in hand to work simultaneously to achieve your goals. Our second myth is that user acquisition is just expensive. So let's break this down. Thinking about performance when we talked about CPI, it really can be boiled down into a formula of how competitive your ad is and that it actually gets shown. So eCPM, effective CPM, stands for effective cost per mille or effective cost per 1,000 impressions. And it's based on the CPI, the cost that you're paying per install, as well as the conversion rate, abbreviated here as CVR. So how many times you're showing the ad to how many times someone actually installs, times 1,000. So when you have a wide audience, a wide stand of people that you can reach, you might be thinking, well, I can have a lower CPI because there's so many people out there. But maybe with so many people, you're not actually getting your message across and you're not getting that CVR that you want. So even though you have a lower CPI, your eCPM is going down as well. So then you might tap into using more selective targeting to zero in on the audience that you want. And this might make it more expensive because there's less people to attract. So the CPIs will rise, but so does your eCPM. So essentially, having a higher eCPM allows you to be more competitive and actually gives you the ability to scale. Game genre is a pretty important factor when it comes down to this. You know, a hyper-casual game might have the ability to have CPIs down in the cents, whereas a hardcore game is willing to pay up to $14 because they have different conversion rates and they attract different types of users. But when you look at it, the eCPM actually backs out pretty similarly. So you might think just because the CPI is low that it means that it's cheaper, but all of these factors come into play. And actually the most important metrics that you really want to be thinking about is lifetime value and return on ad spend. Lifetime value meaning how much revenue you're making from these users based on how long they stay in your game, whatever kind of monetization strategy you have, whether that's just ads or some combination of ads and in-app purchases. As well as return on ad spend. How much money are you getting in return for what you're spending? So that's why we're busting this myth and saying expensive is all relative to value and return. You have to spend money to make money, right? But as long as you're spending money in a smart and strategic way, then you're able to have profitable efforts that you can reinvest back into your game. And again, lifetime value and return on ad spend should be the driving factors for what you're willing to pay for an install and for how much budget you're even willing to spend in the first place. Okay, third myth. User acquisition is too difficult. So once you're ready to get started, setting up the campaign can actually be pretty simple. These are screenshots from Unity's dashboard, but a lot of the networks and platforms out there have pretty easy to use and simple interfaces to set up your campaign. Here we created a quick video to show, we just made a sample video showing our dashboard and how you can walk through the steps to set up your campaign. So as you scroll through, there's different boxes. Here you're adding your creative, selecting your countries, selecting what bids you want to use, choosing what details you want for the campaign, going through, maybe you want to fix your budget, you want to schedule the campaign, and then you also can have the ability to select some targeting as well, as you can see here. But campaigns require analysis and attention. We're not trying to say that there's nothing to it. Even figuring out where to get started, what bids should I use, what countries do I want to target, it requires analysis. Maybe you want to focus on that return on ad spend metric. Maybe you just want to blast users to drive traffic to your game. And you're thinking about how many impressions am I getting? What's my spend? What's my eCPM? So it's definitely not that there's nothing to it, but there are ways that can make this simplified for you. So a lot of people are offering advanced solutions that help you find players that are most likely to have specific value. At Unity, we have a solution called Audience Pinpointer that does just this. So what Audience Pinpointer does, so as we talked about before, when you have this wide range of people, you're probably placing the same bid across all of these users. Or maybe you're using some kind of segmentation to bucket these users into different groups. But Audience Pinpointer enables you to focus on the individual user level, and so you can focus on that user that will bring your specific goal, taking some of the optimization work out of your hands and enabling the machine learning and all of the data and insights to do it for you. So how does it work? This is a pretty simplified visual of all of the machine learning that's happening behind the scenes. But essentially, at the start of the campaign, you'll set what your goal is. Let's say you want return on ad spend of 10%. So then, at the time of the ad request, our system will predict the value of how much money that user is going to spend in the app. We'll decide the bid. And once an install happens, we observe that behavior and continuously improve our models going forward. So myth number 3. We say just get started, and then there are solutions to help optimize. Because creating campaigns themselves is not that difficult, and it can almost be intuitive. We understand that there's a learning curve with campaign setup and optimization, but utilizing advanced solutions that can take some of this effort off of you and are backed by machine learning and algorithms can really ease that effort. Okay. So in summary, paid and organic traffic are both important and can build on each other. As we talked about before, the K factor, one user brings another. They shouldn't be thought of as one is better than the other. You need both of them, and they can build and scale together. Lifetime value and return on ad spend are your key metrics. These will help you determine how much money you want to spend, what bids you want to place, and so forth. And lastly, test and utilize machine learning-backed solutions. Testing is really important. We don't want you to make assumptions and just think that this is how users are going to behave or this is how my spend is going to back out. But once you have data, you can actually make informed decisions going forward so that you understand your users and you understand your efforts, and you can then make optimizations going forward. So that's it. Thank you. We should have some time for a few questions now, but if you want to chat more, you can meet myself and other members of the Unity team at the user acquisition and monetization kiosk on the expo floor.